Since 1943, Batman has had over a dozen major starring appearances on the silver screen. Nearly every Batman movie has a strong case as the best in the catalog, but only one truly stands above the rest. Here's why the best Batman movie is not the one you might think. To figure out which Batman movie is best, you can't just look for the best things about each of them. You have to examine their flaws. Our first contender, Batman the movie, does an amazing job of accomplishing its goal of being a bigger, more epic version of the TV show. It's got a massive team-up between 4 villains, Batman's custom helicopter and speedboat, a nuclear submarine, and even an exploding shark. It even boasts some genuinely good emotional content. Unfortunately, it's also rooted in the source material's campy approach to Batman. That's not a bad thing, but while the comedy holds up, the adventure at the heart of the story doesn't. The weirdest part? Batman and Robin don't actually fix things at the end. Instead, they screw it up so badly that they decide to sneak out a window. It's a great movie, but maybe not the best portrayal of Batman. Next up came Batman and Batman Returns, directed by Tim Burton. At the time, they were hailed by fans as a return to Batman's darker roots, but really, Burton was just doing a goth version of Batman 66. That said, you can't deny that Burton's take is a striking one. Returns has some of the most memorable imagery in the superhero genre, but these movies are also deeply flawed. The Batman we saw in the '89 film is an unhinged weirdo who casually murders dozens of henchmen. Returns is even worse on that front. And from a plot standpoint, it's a confused mess where the only character with clear motivation is Christopher Walken as an evil industrialist. Burton's successor Joel Schumacher took that emphasis on style over substance to the extreme.
What killed the dinosaurs? The Ice Age!
Pun-spewing arch-criminals, femme fatale villains, and the introduction of Robin, who was adopted by Bruce Wayne despite the fact that Chris O'Donnell was pretty clearly in his mid-20s. Needless to say, those movies have a pretty rough reputation, but really, they're not that bad. Even the universally reviled Batman and Robin. Like Batman 66, it's a movie that knows exactly what it's doing and leans into its campy aspects. It's just not as good, and even its die-hard defenders will admit that not that bad is a long way from the best. When Batman returned to theaters in 2005, it made an attempt to show a more grounded version of Bruce Wayne, while also being a movie about a secret ninja cult trying to destroy Gotham City with fear gas. But while Begins has its flaws, and The Dark Knight Rises is a weird fable full of improbable plot points, The Dark Knight is justifiably regarded as a high point of the genre. The story is driven by Heath Ledger's incredible portrayal of the Joker, whose random agent of chaos persona is a smokescreen hiding a complex plot to reveal the worst of human nature. It's a movie where Bruce Wayne loses by being unable to save the woman he loves, while Batman wins by showing that people can be something better than the violent mob the Joker paints them as. All of that makes The Dark Knight the safe pick for the best Batman movie of all time, and with its compelling characterization and the intensity that Ledger and Christian Bale bring to their roles, it lives up to the hype. But it does have flaws, including a weirdly cynical ending, and the hilariously bizarre bullet reconstructing pseudoscience that stands in for actual detective work. Finally, we're left with Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, and it's not even in contention. The first time we see this Batman, he's already been through a long career that includes the death of a Robin and fighting enough villains that they can form an entire Suicide Squad. That's all stuff that we might want to see to get an idea of why we should like this Batman before he's manipulated into a superhero fistfight by Lex Luthor, but we don't get it. Instead, this film coasts on all the movies that came before, assuming we should know everything about this guy and what his deal is. What the Batman of BVS does have going for him is a handful of bone-shattering fight scenes, and the foresight to be the mastermind behind putting together the Justice League, even if Lex Luthor seems to be the one who did the homework on that one. Which brings us to the best Batman movie. To be fair, Mask of the Phantasm isn't perfect. The animation is far from the crisp visuals that audiences might have expected, but there's a reason for that. When Disney's Aladdin was completely rewritten only 19 months before its scheduled release, it was such a big deal that animators referred to it as Black Friday. Mask of the Phantasm, on the other hand, had a total production time of only 8 months, and the decision to bring it to the big screen rather than VHS was made while it was already in production. But that doesn't mean you have to grade Mask of the Phantasm on a curve. The Nolan movies succeeded largely because we're shown Bruce Wayne as a flawed human being who transcends himself to become something more, and the sacrifices he endures to pursue a life as Batman. Mask of the Phantasm brings in those same elements, but in a way that balances and blends its emotional core with superheroic action. What it does best, though, is an element the other movies often struggle with. In presenting the Phantasm, it shows the difference between a quest for vengeance and a search for justice. Andrea Beaumont has every reason to hate the people she's going after, just as Bruce Wayne does. As much as we can understand her, though, there's a clear distinction between hero and vigilante. It's a movie that's full of bold choices, showing Batman's human weaknesses and giving him a villain who ultimately gets away. It takes risks no other Batman movie has, and in almost every case, they pay off. Sadly, Mask of the Phantasm was the only Batman movie ever to flop on its initial release, but the years since have seen it become a cult favorite for fans who have placed it right where it should be, at the top tier of Batman's cinematic adventures.